Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, necessarily serfs, peasants, vassals. I'm a useful idiot. Today I want to talk about Martin Luther King, because, of course, last week we had the 50th anniversary of his famous I Had a Dream speech. But I'm not going to talk about that so much. I'm going to talk about the fact that Martin Luther King now is a corporate tool. And what I mean by that is the complete and utter irony. Not only that Barack Obama has evoked Martin Luther King over and over and over again, and the fact that Martin Luther King would be severely disappointed that the first black president, Barack Obama, would basically just perpetuate white colonial foreign policy and white banker supremacy in America. And not only that, is one of the architects of the new exploitation and recolonization of Africa. So what a total complete irony. So it's pretty despicable that Barack Obama, just by virtue of his race, was allowed to utilize Martin Luther King as a corporate tool, as a government tool, as a propaganda tool, as a martyr for the state. The other part of the irony of that is the knowledge that the government pulled out all the stops persecuting and watching Martin Luther King and spying on him. And there are those who also suspect that the government is the one that eventually had Martin Luther King assassinated. And that sounds very plausible as well. So here we have the state that while Martin Luther King was alive, tended to demonize him, try to thwart him, surveilled him, harassed him, and ultimately killed him, is the same state that now utilizes Martin Luther King and invokes his name as if it somehow represents the same values as the United States government. And pretty easy to say that that's preposterous. And so I lament the fact that that's the way history is written. History is written by the state. So they can appropriate all kinds of figures or castigate all kinds of other figures in order to maintain this narrative that's important to legitimize the power of the state. And that's what we have now with somehow the state appropriating Martin Luther King as a corporate government tool for propaganda and can somehow assume his virtues. And we see the state appropriate, for example, Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, as a corporate figure, extolled the same virtues that we now see in corporate America and the government, and he was also American, so it is in the narrative interests of the state to prop up Edison as the greatest inventor of all time, when anybody who does a little research knows that it's Nikola Tesla. But he wasn't from America, and he was an altruist and a humanist, and his inventions were so far beyond Edison that a lot of it's still not even understood today. But the state narrative is important, and so they appropriate these martyrs, these civil rights figures, these revolutionary figures. The founding fathers, according to the British, were terrorists, but of course the United States can write our history and paint them as freedom fighters, and yet there's freedom fighters all over the world now that the United States persecutes by labeling them terrorists. And so this is how the history narrative goes when the state gets to write everything. And the state isn't the only one that does that. Corporations do that as well. They appropriate the legacies of people like Jimi Hendrix and Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson, and they turn them into huge mega empires, huge mega corporate empires, because once the artist is gone, they are unfettered and total exploitation of those estates. So people like Jimi Hendrix and Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley are actually worth more dead than they are alive. But this is another example of how this works. Seattle, for a long time, would not have any sort of acknowledgement that Jimi Hendrix was from this city in this state, Seattle, Washington, because he represented a bohemian drug taker and all of that kind of triviality. But now, of course, Seattle's gotten to the point where they can finally acknowledge and then appropriate Jimi Hendrix as a corporate government tool for Seattle, to bring tourism here and that sort of crap. And so this is just something that's always done. And once again, corporations and governments who have much in common and are naturally joined in a partnership, they extol the same virtues, and they take these figures and they adopt them and they exploit them and they bring them into the state mythology and take them away from the people and use these champions of the people actually to continue to exploit the people for generations to come. And we've seen that more recently with Ron Paul, completely vilified by the media and the GOP whilst he was actually a threat and whilst he had some potential to get some real power. But now that Ron Paul's out of politics, of course, Fox News is happy to have him on there because he'll do a little Obama bashing, which they love. And then the GOP can gradually fold him into the status quo mythology. And at some point, Ron Paul will be a huge icon. When he finally passes, I mark my words, we will see grand gestures from the status quo GOP party towards Ron Paul when he's no longer a threat. It can be appropriated as a corporate government tool. So that's what we have today. Martin Luther King, a revolutionary, a visionary. People talk about, he was less of a noble character in real life. And I dismiss that because I've studied a lot of art history, and I've learned to separate the personal life and predilections of the artist from their work. And a lot of times the nature of that dubious lifestyle is what is one of the main foundations for how great their work tends to be. But anyway, I think it's ironic that a person like Martin Luther King now can be used as a symbol of the state. Postage stamps and streets named after him and buildings named after him and monuments in Washington, D.C. is just another icon, another false idol for the state, sucked dry of all its true meaning and nobility. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.